Hello Sensuals, let's talk about rebirthing breathwork. And what does it have to do with sexuality, sexual exploration, transformation, fulfillment, and so on. First of all, hi, this is Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. Welcome back to my channel. Here, I help you get your orgasmic intimacy. As you all know, I am currently a coach. An intimacy coach, the holistic intimacy coach. That means I can only work with the present and the resources that you have at hand to direct yourself towards the goals, wishes, ideals, dreams that you want to make happen in your intimate life. However, for many people, this modality is not working because they still have unhealed wounds, whether psychological, emotional, or both. Therefore, healing is first of all needed in order to finally enjoy intimacy and all other things, by the way, to their full potential or the maximum possible to each individual according to their lives and any other conditions that they might have. And also gradually transform or make new things happen, new avenues, reach new experiences in intimacy. Yes, it's possible. Everybody should be able to do that because naturally we're all gifted with that potential. However, that potential is covered and dusted with a lot of wounds, emotional baggage, and emotional turmoil that we carry sometimes from way before we even knew what was going on with us. So enter the rebirthing breathwork modality. Here's a bit of history about it, just, within 1 minute. Back in 1962, a man named Leonard Orr discovered this while he was in his bathtub, going through an emergency barrier. What does that mean? A resistance. Pain in the body, discomfort, suffering, something came up negative for him, and that situation pushed him to act out of instinct and act out of self-defense, preservation and so on. But instead, he lay in the bathtub with that emotion and he kept on breathing. He broke through it, basically. This is how he started to refine the method. He started breathing underwater. Okay, so he took a snorkel and he would go plunge all of himself in the water, therefore replicating the womb experience as much as possible. And he saw that he could shed further layers of his pain, suffering, and understand more about him, his life, where he was headed. And in time, he started speaking about this to various events that he was going to. When people heard the stories, they wanted to try with him. In realizing that not everybody's fit to plunge in a hot bathtub and sit underwater completely and breathe in a certain kind of way and push through this for a longer duration of time, he started doing dry rebirthing breathwork. So just on dry. And he realized that people need at least 10 full sessions supervised, so with assistance, with somebody watching over them, until they could go underwater, in a hot bathtub with a snorkel and really replicate the womb experience to the maximum possible. Nowadays, so 60 years later from the moment when he started, it is estimated that at least 10 million people around the planet benefited from this method. This method uses 3 tools to uncover the depth of the problem, the personal beliefs, and all the baggage, basically, that people carry that is shunning their potential, okay? It is stifling their capacity. And those are the analysis principle, the affirmation principle, and the goal principle. So what we do in this modality is basically track ourselves, our lives from the present all the way to the moment of birth and even before in utero, basically. And we look at any potential factors, situations, people, relationships, accounts from others, because when we were in the womb, the people that can tell us what was going on with our mothers is either our mother, our father, the people that were around our mother while she was carrying us in the womb. Yes, The stuff that happens with us as infants, as embryos, as fetuses, while we're still growing in our mother's wombs, can affect us later. Yes, not just physically, but also emotionally, psychologically. It's not woo-woo, it's actual. There's a lot of research and there are a lot of documentaries that attest to that. One documentary is In Utero. So we start to act as detectives and we look at how far our situations that are now challenging us, how far they go. After we do the analysis principle, affirmation principle, goal principle, and you do this gradually, by the way, you combine it with breath work, a certain kind of breath work with somebody there to motivate you. And this is vital. I've discovered this modality in 2017, at the end of November 2017. That's when I met my current teacher, Alina. I was facilitating an event. It was a conscious intimacy workshop. And somebody who knew her, they introduced her to me also. And we hosted her also in our workshop. I first did a breathwork session back in 2017, November. Since then, because I liked Alina so much, I kept in touch with her. And I've collaborated with her throughout time. Then I worked one-on-one back in 2020 when the whole world was breaking loose, I couldn't just, I needed to do something. So I wanted to work in person and Alina was there. So that's how I did it. And in 2022, after doing a lot of breathwork practices, even full practices on my own, and then just short practices, which I also have in my Patreon community. Breath is important and is part of most of my practices. After doing all of these, I was ready to make the leap to go through the modality in an intense way. Okay, so what I've done in the last 5 years, now I'm doing 10 times stronger in just 7 months. Okay, it's intense. But it didn't come overnight to me, and I didn't get to this capacity overnight. 5 years it took me. So right now, I am aware that helping people to heal their trauma is something that I also want to do. I don't want to keep sending people to others. So I'm working on my capacity to do therapy, even if it is breathwork therapy. Okay, rebirthing breathwork is a very powerful modality. It works slowly. Okay, it takes years. Yes, it's not overnight. It really takes years. I'm not going to lie. But you do it, you embody your healing. You don't just talk about it. You embody it. So what are the main sources of wounding or trauma that people can carry in their lives? Birthing trauma, parental disapproval syndrome, the subconscious or unconscious death urge, past lives, or transgenerational wounds. If you don't believe in past lives, according to your belief system, it's what you've inherited from others. Past lives, if you're open to the concept. Personal lie, school trauma, religious trauma, senility, repression of the feminine, and repression of the masculine. Okay, these are the 10 core roots of all other wounding trauma and just negative, personal negatives that we carry with ourselves in our lives that affects us. When I asked my teacher, okay, but where would you fit in those categories? Where would you fit sexual trauma in? You know what her reply was? There are many of these roots that you can also fit in sexual trauma. 1, birth. If any procedure is done on the newborn baby, on their genitalia, whether male or female or intersex, that's also possible. I mentioned it in the circumcision material. I also mentioned the intersex phenomenon. Okay, infants, because they're too small to be anesthetized, they're done, the procedures on their genitalia is done live, meaning without any anesthetic, just like that. wounding, sexual wounding on their genitalia comes from also that source. Then there's the parental disapproval syndrome. A lot of people can get traumatized sexually from the relationship with their parents or caretakers. Then there's the school trauma. Not necessarily that people are being physically aggressed sexually, but the messages that are transmitted, much as the same is happening also with religious trauma, okay? In the religious environment, the shaming of the sexual act and all the messages and judgment around it, that also carries the potential of sexual wounding, sexual traumatizing for people, without necessarily doing something physical to them. Then there's the repression of the feminine or the masculine. This is being done in both men and women. Sexual expression is included there because people are being fed negative messages and standards with what women should do sexually, how they should be, how they are sexually desirable and how they are not. And it's related also to acts, okay? Women that engage sexually more than a given number by others are promoted as being undesirable, as carrying baggage or high body count and all that, and that is seen as sexually The opposite is for men in many cases. The more experiences they have, whether they want them or not so much, they are seen as more virile, more capable, more potent. And in the case of men, they're encouraged to engage sexually even more. Sometimes with disconnecting their emotions basically from their body and just acting out of instinct and not connecting emotionally or mentally or on a higher level with the people that they're engaging with. There's a movie, it's called Shame, that talks about exactly this, how men are more driven to engage just on a physical level and disconnect with the emotions or the mindset or the soulful component, spiritual aspects of intimacy. Yes, that is there. It creates life. It's not just a physical act and that's it. I know that science is yet to prove the existence of the soul, higher consciousness, and soulful sexuality, but it's there. It's not woo-woo. So when people are disconnected from that and just encouraged to behave physically and count, the higher the body count in the case of men, usually they're promoted as more desirable. But the disconnection, the dissociation with it also leads to sexual trauma. So the potential of wounding exists in many layers. When you engage gradually, organically with a therapeutical modality, rebirthing breathwork is one of those, okay, for healing, that's when you start to access more of your potential. You uncover more of the dust that was placed there, more of the dirt, okay, the pollution, emotional pollution, energetic pollution, mental pollution, sometimes even physical pollution. A lot of uncomfort, ailments, dis-ease, a lot of physical challenges. Just in my case, I've experienced this with pain. Whenever I'm going through pain, sometimes with my menstruation, but not just, I actually can diminish considerably up to completely with breath work. Yes. So breath work can actually help you cleanse a lot of the stuff that you carry in time. Okay, you need to gradually build your capacity to interact with breath work. This is what I'm doing right now. So either you join me on Patreon, where I have a lot of practices, from really short, quick practices that get you into breath work, up to longer practices of half an hour, where you start to engage more with your breath. And obviously, once you start to do these over a period of half a year, maybe a year, you're ready. You build yourself to the capacity of going through 1 hour, 2 hour breathwork sessions. When you get over the discomfort of breathing, you can work with intention. Yes, you can. It's amazing what it can do. And if you're in Bucharest, where I live, I'm starting to facilitate this gradually in person. That means I'm there with you. I see you. I can support you just like I've been supported throughout the years as I've worked with my teacher. And I've seen the difference in having somebody looking at you, encouraging you, being there with you when an emergency barrier comes up, and supporting you through it. So that can only be done in person. That's what I'm doing where I live. So if you're in Bucharest, then check out the link below. I'm doing an event already, and I'm starting to do events on a recurring basis because this is something that you want to grow into. Otherwise, I'll see you with more videos on intimacy, bliss, transformation, because, we want to take it to the next level. So I want you to join me, whether online or live. Join me and gradually get into the place where you're breathing through to your orgasmic potential, blissful, ecstatic, fulfilling, intimate life. It is possible. It really is. I'll see you next time.